So Legacy Beef Co-op is the idea that we need to come together as cattle feeders. So we have a little more leverage working together. We have buying power, feeding 1,000 head of cattle, what you purchase on a day-to-day basis, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's feed supplements, whatever it is, you're priced at 1,000 head a year. If you have 500,000 head of cattle put together, your pricing model changed quite drastically. Mm-hmm. Now you have the pricing model of the largest feedlots in the world working to your advantage. Legacy Beef Co-op is formed to be the delivery mechanism of the cattle to Cattlemen's Heritage, a plant that's being built outside of Council Bluffs that Legacy Beef Co-op will own roughly 20% of that company also. So we're working together with the cattle producer to deliver cattle, create more opportunity working together while staying independent, which is a pretty important thing for all cattle feeders. We want to be independent, but we can work together, deliver the cattle through a plant that we have ownership in, and then receive profits out of the back side of the plant as well on the front side. A few ways we're doing that. On the front side, when we deliver cattle from the co-op, we're going to tie our grid model, our pricing, what we're going to buy the cattle for will be tied directly to the box beef cutout versus the CME. I think anybody that's been in the game very long can think of a few reasons pretty quick. But the CME obviously on live cattle goes up and down at a whim. Any rumor in the market, now we have computer algorithms trading positions. It changes the game for us. We went from what I would argue 10 years ago was probably still a fundamental market based on fundamentals to today is more of a rumor market that ebbs and flows based on funds management. When the contrary to that is the box beef cutout is USDA reported twice a day, true numbers, you can't gamble on it. It's a true value of the product being sold into the wholesale and retail system out of the back door of the plants. So our concept is really simple. Let's tie our pricing mechanism to that. Everybody understands that a plant has to make a profit, has to cover its investment cost, it has to operate. But beyond that, there's money there to be shared back and forth and can be tied to a reasonable number and expectation. And one of the things that we've found, got endless research, but an interesting fact is that if you go back to 2004 to 2013, the average difference between buying cattle, our dressed cattle we were selling, and the box beef cutout, choice cutout, was just give or take $5 a hundred, $4.94. Then you go from 2014 to 2023, the average was $30.36. That's a $25 difference in a 10-year span that we as producers have not participated in that difference. There's some big black swan events in there, fair enough, right? There was a COVID that really erupted the market, but at the same time during COVID, the CME went down because we couldn't get our cattle through the plants fast enough, while box beef hit all-time highs of 400. In our model, we would have been being paid still tied off that box beef cutout, so it wouldn't have been an artificial just going down. More recently, what we just saw is, the avian flu, right? Not in the beef herd, by the way, which is a pretty important fact. It's in a few dairy cattle that it's not going to kill. It doesn't affect the milk. It doesn't affect the people, right? If you get it, you're going to be fine.
Right.
The cattle are going to be fine. But it took the market in the month of March, the Board of Trade went down $8. All the same time, the box beef cutout stayed exactly the same.
Flat.
And what that tells us is no consumer was out there paying less to buy meat because they were worried about it. But what it does show us is in a world where computers trade the market, they can use that to ebb and flow profits into their system based on rumors. And the fundamental basis of Legacy Co-op is we buy our cattle on a fundamental market. Hundreds of sale barns across the country every week sell cattle. We go there to buy or feed our cattle, and we bring them home and put them on feed. That is a true fundamental market. We paid the most that day of anybody else. But when we go to sell our cattle, we are tied to something that outside sources can gamble on and basically determine what we're going to get paid for our cattle. That's where we look at it very differently.
Is Legacy Beef Co-op and the production plant, Cattlemen's Heritage, is it big enough to compete?
That's the key to it. It's volume, right? If you're talking a load a day, 2 loads a day, and you want to get into the local, I get that. And in theory, like, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Well, when you are trying to supply one store, maybe two stores, and you can't even get all their beef, that's a difficult thing for a food chain to say, well, we'll give you one or two of our stores and not the rest.
Yep.
So if you're one of the big companies, you're going to say, well, we want to be in all of them or none of them.
Yep.
I kind of get that, understand that play from their point of view.
Yep.
At our level, we'll have enough beef that we will be able to participate at a high level.
Okay.
That's a key to it. The other thing is, on Cattlemen's Heritage, we've been working on that for a couple years, developing the business plan, the model. We have had over 80 companies worldwide reach out to buy the beef. Selling the high-quality product out of the Midwest is not an issue. You just have to have some volume. And
Gotcha.
2,000 head a day is where we're at, so 520,000 head a year. That volume,
That's volume.
Enters a marketplace. The other thing that we look at in the future, maybe not, who knows, but there's other independents that are regional that are starting up. I would be a little bit surprised if someday there's not working together as independents to meet market demands, right?
More of a franchise type.
For sure.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, guys, right now, the core of Cattlemen's when we started this was at the height of our cattle cycle, there's not enough capacity in this country. We were maxed out. We were sitting at 99%. Holcomb, Kansas has a fire.
Yep.
Tanks our market because they can't get cattle through them.
Yeah.
So now everybody's looking at it today. You could say, well, the packing industry's probably running 85%. Well, there's some room. Well, yeah, for the next year or two, but we're going to go back up in that cycle. I know you guys have talked about beef on dairy. That whole cycle's coming in a big way. There's going to be more cattle, more production cattle for sure, and we're going to need to be able to have the capacity to handle it and have some room on it. Because if one of the big plants decide to exit, if they exit today, it crashes our market.
And I want to go back to the comment you made about how the producer has the opportunity to sell at a higher price going into the plant and get some profits on the backside. You're tying it to the boxed beef. Can a producer today sell to any packing house and tie their price of cattle to the price of boxed beef?
No, not that I know of. All grid models are still based on the CME. That's the fundamental basis, whether it's dressed or full grid, it's based off of that.
Yep.
Now, it has a reflection. Once boxed beef comes down to a certain point, we always get to participate in the downturns.
Sure.
Boxed beef comes down, we go down.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem participating in the downside as long as I get the opportunity to participate in the upside. But when boxed beef goes right back up, well, my bid didn't jump $5. So we get all downside pressure,
Right.
and we don't get the upside pressure.
So for our listeners that don't have the experience, then what does it mean today if our producers are selling in the meat?
You're still tied to its addressed price. It's based on dressed. It'd be based more on carcass side yield and
Yep.
grade versus the whole. So it's addressed price that is still tied to the CME that day. All they do is take the calculation. If the board's sitting at $1.80, they calculate it to addressed price at a percentage of yield.
So it's the hanging weight versus the live weight.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's
Otherwise,
exactly
the
right.
price is determined based upon the CME, both categories.
Both categories. And then if you say I'm going to sell in a full grid, you can sell it just on yield in the beef, or you can sell it on a full grid. And when you sell on a full grid, then they take every animal, how much prime, how much choice, evaluate all that. But we're in a weird spot right now. We have a lot of big cattle. You take quite a hit for 4s and 5s, which means there's more fat, different style that way. But at the same time, the fat and tallow has become worth gold in the secondary market and rendering and aviation. So, when you dive into the numbers, those discounts don't always make sense. But again, there's a business model out there that's been around for a long time, and that's just the way it is. And if you want that business model to change, you're going to have to be a shareholder in the company that changes it. Legacy Co-op will sell 525,000 shares. Each share represents one shackle. So if you wanted to deliver 1,000 head of cattle into the plant, you'd buy 1,000 shares. You have 1,000 head delivery every year. So we're going to get all our cattle from the co-op members. And the co-op members will deliver their cattle based on the grid that we talked about that's tied to the boxed beef cutout. So it's a better representation of the market, of fundamentals of the market. And they'll also own 20% of the entire company. So you have a way to make money on the front door, at least a more fair mechanism, and then you also share in the profits on the back end.
So who owns Legacy Beef Co-op?
Right now, the co-op members will, right? So right now we have a board. We are building it, the co-op. So a co-op has a board that directs it, but the members own a co-op. So every time you buy in, you will have a co-op membership. The co-op is set up as it's one vote for one unit. It's, there's traditional co-ops that no matter how many shares you own, it's still one vote, one member. We set it up more to, if you have 1,000 units, you'd have 1,000 votes in this model, right? So,
So 2 questions then around one share equals one shackle. How long are we tied into this? Can we come and go?
You're committed every year for the rest of your life. Like, this is a long-term commitment, but it's like shares in anything. If I could go back in the ethanol industry and buy up all the shares at the first price, I'd go ahead and buy them all, right? So you'll be able to sell your shares down the road if you decide I'm just out of the cattle business.
If I retire, I shut my barn down.
You can obviously pass them down to the next generation, or you can go out and you can sell them to other cattle producers. So right now, we just started on Legacy Beef Co-op about a month ago. We're selling them in 5 rounds, 5 lettings. The first one is 60,000, and then half of them are sold today.
Gotcha.
Well, that's a good start.
It's a great start for literally, we've been really out there talking about for 3 weeks.
And then can I get in if I'm going to commit 2 head a year?
Yeah, we don't have a bottom side. I mean, when we're sitting at the kitchen table, we like to at least have a load. You know, if you're going to load up a truck, let's bring a load. Right. But, this is designed for everybody. It's not designed that, you've got 5,000 head, so I'm going to give you another advantage or not, or whatever that looks like. This is, if you've got 40 head a year you want to deliver, buy 40 units.
Is there a top side?
There isn't. I mean, I think for the marketing side of this, what we're going to do as a company is market our family farms. We're going to tell our stories. I mean, the cattle feeder, the family farm out of the Midwest is possibly the best story to tell of anybody on any marketing plane. Everybody wants to know where their food's coming from, who's taking care of it, what the quality is, the animal husbandry. All that matters. We're offering all that. We can detail it. We can introduce you to the families that are participating in this. So that's the marketing. So when you ask, is there a top side? There's not a top side. But at a certain point in time, there's enough people that will have a marketing program that'll simply say, hey, our average producer is X, right? And I don't know, is that 500 head? Is that 1,000 head? I don't know. As cattle producers, as a producer, any farmer in the Midwest, right, we really value our independence, right? And that's been a lifelong thing. And because of that, I think we've been allowed down that path to thinking that I'm always working against you or my neighbor, so I can't get the same price point and all that. We need to realize there's a way to be completely independent and create a better opportunity for ourselves, and I think the co-op it is. In my entire lifetime, nobody has ever offered me in the cattle industry an opportunity to participate in something that levels the playing field for me and my family and generations to come. I think that's vital in this program. And really, when you break it down and the pricing model and all that, what's at risk is $10. If you don't like it, you walk away. It's $10 a head. Well, I will tell you this: every single time I've sold cattle in my entire life, I assume I left $10 on the table. It's a minor investment for an opportunity. That's all we're asking for. Take a look at it. If the opportunity fits you, we want to communicate. We want the right information out there. But everything we are working on, whether it's from TenCorp to Cattlemen's Heritage to the co-op, everything is working towards a better operation, helping people, helping family farms, and we want more family farms, not fewer.